morning, everybody. Thank you for giving us a little bit of time there to get everything together. The guys were just setting up your headsets for you. This is going to be a really great workshop. I'm really excited about this one. It's a first for VWF. First of all, I'm Linda Giftash. I'm our marketing coordinator. This is a really exciting workshop. As you know, virtual reality is very new, and we're excited to have this incorporated in this year's festival. So without further ado, Sean Ronan is an experienced design consultant working at the intersection of art, technology, and business. James Kingstone is a virtual reality and film producer here to demystify the process of 360 film making. Please welcome Sean Ronan and James Kingstone.
Hey, guys. Thank you.
Good morning.
All right. So, hope you're having a good morning here. We have everything set now.
Oh, yeah. Ready to rock.
There's no Wi-Fi, but it doesn't matter. It's okay.
The funny thing is, like, you realize, James and I were just on a shoot in the Yukon last week, and when you get out of internet range, you realize...
Well, we were out of phone range. We had nothing in the Yukon.
True. We had to talk to each other.
Yeah, you have to actually look at each other and not look at devices for a while, which was strange and odd. But yeah, no, it's been quite a journey for us. And sincerely, we want to try to take you guys on a similar sort of journey today. We really do. So this all started for us. And we do come from a film background, but we firmly believe that you don't need to come from a film background to be able to make VR. And so it was in Seattle that this started for us. We're from Vancouver, but a friend of ours who's in VFX kept telling us, like, guys, you got to come to Seattle. The VR scene there is amazing. It's so interesting. There's all these hackathons. It's so great. And at this point, there was really nothing here that was VR related at all. So what we want to do is we wanted that journey we had down to Seattle, what occurred there for us and that got us into that, we want to be able to pass that on to you and give you guys the same experience.
Yeah, and like as Linda said in the preamble, like demystify, because I think one of the tricky things for people when they approach new technology is sort of like overcoming like what seems confusing or complicated. And what James and I really experienced in our first time VR hacking in Seattle was just like getting through the process. And so that's what we want to do with you today is, we're going to show you something, we're going to talk about it a little bit, brainstorm some ideas about what you guys might like to do, get some cameras out, shoot it, finish it. By the end of the day, you're going to be watching it in a VR headset. Because that's how you're going to learn, right? And at early stages in sort of the creative process, it doesn't help to get too caught up in how to do every single thing. So we're going to finish something today, maybe a couple of things, and that's going to be really fun. Yeah,
we want you to get something made. We want you to be involved in the production of a piece of 360 cinema. And let's get that going.
Yeah. So we've got 3 headsets here. I think we've got 9 people, so that would give us 3 screenings. It's about 6 minutes short film. We're going to show you what we made 2 years ago at our first hackathon. You might notice some familiar faces in it. It was a crazy 48-hour VR filmmaking challenge. So yeah, it'll be a good sort of reference point just to start the conversation.
So as some of you are screening, we're going to continue to talk to some of you and orient you, but we're going to set 3 of you up to start screening this experience. It's called One Way Trip. Sean and I made it together in Seattle. We had only recently discovered modern day, VR, if you will. And we were at this hackathon in Seattle, and we just threw ourselves into it. And what resulted was a really good reception from it. It was accepted to festivals in Paris, Amsterdam, and a couple different things in Seattle, eventually culminating in us having a feature spot at SIFF, the Seattle International Film Festival. And we got to speak there and got to that's where things started to, kind of balloon in that regard. And there is something related that I want to touch on as we get you guys set up here. And that is that with virtual reality, I don't know if you know this, but there's a lot of people are like, what is it exactly? There's doubt. It's like, is it similar to 3D? It's like, how much is this going to last? Is it a fad? What is it? And the way I look at it is this is happening, and it is only going to be more of a thing every month we are alive, just like the internet was. And there's going to be periods, there's going to be people who eschew it, but in the end, there's all kinds of encouraging signs constantly. I mean, Darren Aronofsky, his piece at Sundance. I mean, Sundance has really embraced VR. And we're seeing this, and at the same time, we're seeing We're seeing things aren't as encouraging, but I will tell you, like this is the way of the future. And these, even though right now 360 cinema is not fully interactive, but it's the first seed and it's the first port of call and something that continues to grow and such an amazing place to start from. Show of hands, how many people here have been in a 360 or VR experience? Okay, pretty much everyone, which makes sense. You're here. So quickly, what are some words that maybe you associate with your experience so far, like positive and negative, if someone wants to? Immersive, yeah. Yeah, there's an element of it for sure, like interactivity, yeah. Yes. Nausea, you hear that one a lot. Nausea.
That's the tagline we're really going for, right? VR makes you nauseous.
Okay, and I think that's a really good one. I mean, those are all good, and those are all very true. We have immersive, interactive, and nausea. And it's kind of funny, but it's true. It's a part of it. And it's because it's real life, right? And when you see the future in movies or what have you, everything's so clean and perfect, but they don't always show what it takes to get there. And VR right now is in that stage where we're growing, we're changing, we're trying to take on something entirely new. And of course there's nausea. Just like when the first films were in theaters, there'd be a train on the screen and people would jump out of the way. They'd go nuts. I'm sure some of you have heard of this, and then this is what we're feeling right now. And at the same time, we are so aggressively pushing forward with, hi, if you'd like to come in, come sit down. Okay. we're so aggressively, it's good. The smaller we are, the more you guys get personal attention for this. I'd be enthused. It's the more we're aggressively pursuing technology, the more we're able to deal with that. But it's kind of cool, I think, to be at a time where nausea is a problem. When 2028 comes, no one's going to have that issue. We're going to be like, oh, we remember the days where you used to get sick when you were in VR, And it's kind of cool to have those limitations.
That was real VR. Right?
That was real. Like I had to walk 10 miles to my VR station.
No, but honestly, it's true. I've got a broken bone in my hand from VR, and I'm pretty proud of that. And I hope that somebody today gets a broken bone.
I hope someone breaks their hand. That's what we want. No, we do not want that, by the way. All right. Yeah, exactly.
Webfest got you covered. Don't worry.
So we're going to take you guys out here. We're going to get you guys shooting as much as possible. We really also want, beyond you learning how to do it, it's an opportunity that doesn't come along all the time. So we want you to do something that's meaningful to you. We want you to be able to create something that's not only meaningful to you, because that's how you make something good, but also something that you might say or think in your mind, especially because a lot of you have done VR and hopefully have given this a lot of thought. But those who haven't, that's great too, because it's a new perspective. But hopefully you can do something that you think, hey, I've never seen this kind of thing before. This is a fantastic way to utilize this thought I have, this idea I have, and how to create it in a different way. Which is, we are at, I feel like sometimes I'm hyperbolic about this, but I really believe it's an incredibly lucky time because we get to be at the forefront of a new tech. Like, it's not like, oh, Avatar and it's 3D films. Like, that's cool, but it's not the same. This is a whole new way of experiencing media. And so you think, oh, well, how much people are like, oh, you have a film background, that's why you're able to do this. And sure, in some ways it helps, but in other ways it honestly hinders us. So if some of you don't have a film background, which I'm hoping some of you probably don't, that could be good because it's a different perspective and a way of looking at things. In fact, your own lives and experiences, unique as they are, will in their own ways enrich you and guide you in how to try to approach this new medium. So I'm really excited to see what different things you come up with. I mean, there are myriad ways to approach this. And we want you to go out. We want to enable you to create, whatever your heart desires. So what we're going to put you through here it's called One Way Trip. As I was saying, we made it in Seattle. And what we did for One Way Trip is we were put on a team, and the team kind of together talked about, okay, what are we going to create here? What are we going to make? And for me, I was a big proponent of saying, well, listen, if we're going to be, it has to be POV. It has to be the point of view of a person. I'm like, obviously, there's other things we can do, but I think that's the most gripping, visceral thing I can do in this moment. However, do not feel like you have to do POV. This whole experience is in POV. We added a body. I won't give any spoilers, but you have a body. You'll look down. You see you are someone, and you're in a situation. And it doesn't have to be POV. It doesn't, what you create, even have to be narrative. It could be a documentary. It could be experimental. It could be anything you want. And we really just want to enable you guys to be able to create something here and explore this entire new medium. And so that's kind of my intro. Yes. So everyone wants to know about AR. Because I say VR, they're like, what about AR? And you're right. It's important to talk about AR. So really quickly, everyone here knows what AR is? Okay, yeah, augmented reality. So the difference is, whereas in virtual reality, it puts you in an all-new reality, augmented reality changes the reality you're in right now. Some of you are wearing glasses. That's all you need to have augmented reality. And so imagine we're here in this room. I'm up here talking. But instead, the one difference to your glasses is that there's a velociraptor stalking me around the stage. Hope that'd be horrifying, but, it could be fun, for you maybe watching me. You never know. But that'd be the difference. So you see your reality around you, but there's a modification. And so eventually, AR and VR will become one. It eventually will just be one. Eventually, this is getting more into the realm of speculation, but hello. Hi, come have a seat. Getting into the realm of speculation, but eventually it could, just be a little something in your eye, and you can just decide, should I be in reality or not in reality? And when you're in reality, you can then have whatever additions, modifications you might want. This could be especially useful if you say, I don't want to have an 80-inch TV that I have to have in my room, but wouldn't it be fantastic if I can just click something and all of a sudden there's an 80-inch TV that I didn't have to actually move around. And so anything that's there for aesthetic purposes that you need for yourself, you can just put in there. Anyway, I can talk about any topic on this whatsoever. If there are any more questions off the top here, I'd be happy to answer them. Sir, you just sat down. Is there anything you want to be caught up on? I know it's probably a lot to take in. Okay. Anyone else have any? Sean is setting up people now. It is happening. Yeah, so hi, yes. Okay, well, take in as much as possible. And we'll stay in touch. And yeah. Oh, great that you're here. So we have 3 people now going into VR. Again, I want to reiterate, I don't want this to imprint upon you too much what to do. I just want to more know the possibilities of what you can accomplish, if that makes sense. We were able to accomplish something pretty good in 48 hours. This is an opportunity. So don't think you have to make something like that. Just know that that's an opportunity to do something that, can really, you could potentially make something tangible. But also no pressure. Just experiment and have fun. And if something great comes from it, great. But typically we're not going to have something of that level. All right. Are there any other questions? Okay, great. Does anyone have any ideas off the top of their head? Especially maybe Sir Kyle there. You've never been in VR before, I noticed, right?
I mean, like 15 years ago.
Oh, dude, Virtua Boy? Yeah. Well, that's the OG, though, man.
We still haven't quite got that level yet, unfortunately.
There's a lot of squares and lasers in One-Way Trip. You'll notice there's, spoiler alert, a laser square focused piece. But no, you've never been in, other than 15 years ago, decade and a half ago. So I'm curious, like, what's something you might want to create using this platform?
The thing that interests me, I think, right now the most is immersive theater, and sort of like there's this thing in New York, Sleep No More, where you go into this 5-story building and this play is just going on around you, and you can go wherever you want. So you follow this character out of the room into another room, up the stairs. They have a scene now with this character,
right?
And you just see everything that they do, and then you can go back again and follow something else. So it's sort of I like the idea of it's almost like you choose your own adventure, but sort of choosing what part of the story you see and having to go in multiple directions.
Yeah, I think what's interesting, exactly. What's interesting about VR, to extrapolate upon that, is it can be a choose your own adventure without actually having to pause and make a choice. And the choice just happens. One of the ways to utilize that, of course, is eye tracking, which is a whole other conversation. But
Yeah, and I mean, even in terms of what we'll be able to create today, like you just have the opportunity to give the user choice based on how they curate the experience, right? Like there's 360 degrees of vision, and you're only ever looking at a rectangular frame of that. So in that same sort of way, like you can really choose what to put together, where the meaning, where the building blocks of the story come from. So I think that's a great reference. And that's the Macbeth piece in New York, right? Yes, I've heard wonderful things about it. It sounds super cool.
Yeah. That's cool.
Vancouver.
Yeah, I know.
Anyway.
But yeah, fantastic. Any other people with the different expectations you might have, ideas you might have? Honestly, there's no wrong answer here. In fact, I kind of want someone to say something kind of different and unique, just completely off the wall. If anyone has any ideas of what they may be thinking about creating. Yes. Hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, you know, it's running 180, but you gotta like edit.
The stitching, yeah.
Yeah, stitch it together.
Yeah.
How old? Old enough to be demented or not old enough to be demented?
No, I mean, you know, these days 50 plus is such a huge.
Oh, you mean senior, like adult with salary, not senior. I spend all my day with 9-year-olds. So.
Right.
No.
Well, I will say, I think elder care is something that I think there's really a place for 360 for that. One of the obstacles is the aforementioned nausea, but absolutely, I think there is. I mean, I think creating serene environments and allowing the elderly to explore areas they may not be able to explore otherwise.
And you gotta remember these days, you know, elderly can be anything from 50 to 105.
Sure.
And it's a wide range.
Yeah.
So it's no longer, you know, the 85 plus
Yeah.
senile.
And I won't consider myself elderly until I'm at least 100. So, does anyone else have any other things they're interested in doing or want to talk about in that regard? Yes.
I've been trying to write a 360 web series that can happen at a convenience store because we have 47 flat pantries in Portland, Oregon. I figure if I get 20 minutes in each one of them before they kick me out, I have enough location time to
Cool.
shoot quite a lot. But what I'm interested in is figuring out, and so I've walked through a lot of flat pantries with my camera, right, trying to figure out how this thing's going to look, and then going home and wishing I had a bigger computer to stitch it all together with.
Yeah.
I'm really interested in figuring out how to make something happen dramatically and direct people's attention a little bit, because I am getting wigged out by the, oh my God, they're not looking at my art, they're looking behind you thing. Like,
Right. Okay, that's a great discussion to
having
have.
come out of theater, I expect
Yeah.
them to be all seated and facing the same direction.
Right.
They're not!
Yeah. I mean, that's a huge discussion, and we're going to slide some more people into VR as we come here. But so that's something that we've really looked at. So there's sort of two schools of thought. So one is direct the user. Get the user looking how do we anchor the user, and then how do we direct the user? So people talk about use sound. Sound, which of course is super important in film, is even more important in the world of virtual reality because it's the only thing that isn't moving all around. And it's something that you can constantly force access to for the user. However, the problem with that, and this is something I believe strongly, is it reduces immersion. And what you want to do right now is encourage immersion as much as possible all the time. So if someone feels like, oh, I better be looking here now. Oh, I better be looking here. Oh no, wait, am I not looking the right way? That's not what we want them. We want them to be like, I'm in a place. I am myself here. You want them to feel that presence, and then you want them, this is a school of thought, I'm not saying this is the way you have to approach, you want them to feel that presence, and you want them to experience it. And
Getting over it myself might be a whole lot easier than learning how to make them look where I want to.
yeah, I mean, I'm of that school of thought, but there are people who say, like, let's find ways to get them to look everywhere. But I would say encourage, as far as to extrapolate on the school of thought I'm promoting here, encourage them to have sort of a organic view of how to approach creating VR and how to create scenes. So we're used to Gesundheit. We're used to creating scenes that are linear, that are directed in a certain fashion. What we can now create instead of scenes for people is we can create experiences in a world. Easier said than done. And I'll tell you, again, one of the reasons, I really can't say this enough, it's super exciting having new people come in who haven't done it before, because there could be the key to figuring out some of these things, because we're still kind of working with all this, and it's still very imperfect. And I love that we're just slowly dragging people away and putting them in another world right now. It's good. Yes?
Yeah, I think it's very similar to video games in that sense. Because, it could be a mixture of both, where portions of it are directed, and then other portions are there where you can just explore or whatever. So you get to a stage where you then kind of explore, and that's where you direct it, and then after that it kind of gets like open world where you can kind of go wherever you want, and Yeah,
Right.
Yeah, exactly. So after a point when you're like, that you're in that immersed kind of space, then you get to a particular area where you are told what to do. It's still kind of immersive in a sense.
Well, I think that's a great point. I liken it often to the, if you guys are familiar with the Bethesda games. I don't know who. Yeah, the Elder Scrolls and Fallout series. And what they do, just to give everyone, so the Bethesda video games are open world video games. We are either in like a mythical Lord of the Rings like world or a post-apocalyptic 1960s world. It seems like we have a lot of fans here, which is cool. They, in fact, have really gone hardcore into VR, by the way, but that's another story. It's a good fit. So it's an open world, and not only is it this open space that you can explore, but they really try not to just focus on the main quest, and you can really have identity in this world. And I think there is certainly a strong comparable there. This is something that, it is similar in that we want to create an experience for someone and don't have them feel like they're tethered to one aspect. And with the games, with Skyrim and all that, it's more like, I don't have to go down one storyline path. Whereas with immersive media, what we're trying to do is make people think the very simple fact that they don't have to look somewhere. They don't have to engage with one aspect, one area, that they can do whatever, just like in real life. That being said, I don't know if we can get perfection in that realm. I mean, I'll tell you, in one-way trips, certainly, we have some things that, like, if you aren't looking, you're not going to fully get everything. But I think that's okay. I think what you need to do is you need to find a way for tone to continue on. Let's say one of you was here, and for whatever reason, you were kind of distracted. Let's say there was a bunch of different images on that screen, and instead of listening to me and stuff, you were focusing more on that screen over there. You're still getting an experience. There's still a tone. There's still something that's happening. It doesn't necessarily have to be the experience that was, perfectly set up for you. And a lot of life is like that. So yeah, it's. I think it's a matter of looking at it and a matter of overcoming obstacles and finding out what fits for you. But yeah, yes, sorry. I mean, inevitably, it's just simply like similar to in film. You can get caught up in like, I need the absolute best camera. I need things to look their absolute best. Whereas I think, especially in the early going, I don't think you need to worry about that. And really, the expenses are more, again, expenses of location, expenses of working with a team, working with actors, and similar to a film production. But that would only be for a certain type of experience. There are myriad ways you can engage with this. Some that are very, very cheap, and I think that's a great entry point. Is you just need to get a small cam. I don't know what the suggestion would be for the cheapest, best one.
Yeah, just like any film production, any like production, they can make it really cheap. You can make it really expensive. You could spend $180,000 on a camera. You could spend $300. You get different levels. I think you could outfit for VR film for about $600, and you could go off and you could shoot something that would not look any different than what we shot here. Like, it doesn't have to be super expensive. And again, this is one of the things I think people get caught up with when they get into a new medium. It's like, I got to have all the cool bells and whistles. I want the Ozo camera. I want the ambisonic binaural sound recording. That stuff's all great, but if you don't know how to use it, if you don't know how to shoot in a 360 space, then it doesn't matter, right? Like, practice. And in the prosumer models, like, we're big fans of Samsung, so we'll be using all Samsung stuff here today. people are convinced we work for them. We don't, but they're just like they're really good.
We
Like,
really don't.
like you can have a 3-year-old Samsung phone and a $400 camera, and you can shoot stuff and you can deliver it as we will do same day. So that's definitely where I would start. But like the Ricoh Theta is a great camera. Maybe just to like jump back in time to a bit of nomenclature, like we're talking about the live action component of VR today. There is, of course, digital design that takes place in game engines like Unity and Unreal. Those have entirely different workflows and different points of entry, but Unity, as far as that goes, is free, and there's a bunch of great assets on there. So that would be my starting point there.
Noticing with the film that was just shown.
No spoilers.
Not lacking in story points,
Yeah.
technique. What were you using to like? How did you work with the POV? Because there's definitely some points
Yeah.
where
It's like,
POV character you can see
Yeah.
where it's being composited out.
so we put that in post. The body came in. It's the
A
rotoscope.
stylistic effect, you know, you'd
Oh,
like
yeah.
been decapitated.
Yeah.
So yeah, and the rest of you will see this once you get inside. I mean, the film is a first-person point of view, and you do have a body. It's tricky, like in terms of making a two-dimensional shot seem three-dimensional in a space, and this like weird notion of like you can never quite see where your head is, right? Like that's just not. It's a bit of like a logical fallacy. So yeah, that was the best idea we came up with on the fly. Since then, we've shot things with mannequins. We've done body doubles. We've done all sorts of different things. It's what we need are like live action human bodies that don't have heads, right? Like that's the only way to properly do it. There's a $500,000 French camera that has 24 lenses that does a really good POV capture. But in terms of like getting it right, we've made some progress, but it's been a big thing for like a year and a half. And so, yeah, we just did a basic like rotoscope comp job. That works until you look backwards, and then you're like, of content. So, yeah, I mean, in terms of that, and we'll again keep it simple today, but I mean, Adobe Creative Suite, super good right now. Been offering pretty good immersive plugins for the last 2 years. They just acquired Metal, who's been making some of the best plugins for both Premiere and After Effects. So that's definitely like our preferred standard right now. Functions exactly the same as traditional film editing, except you have a sort of 360 VR viewer, and then a bunch of different tools that you can use. Definitely ups your hardware requirements in terms of your GPU and often your RAM as well.
You good?
Look at that. That's a
That's
review
fun.
right there. Portland, Oregon loves it.
Yes.
So, till recently, I've kind of read about the fact that VR content is short form. It's all short form.
Right.
Because of nausea and stuff like that.
Well, Felix and Paul made a 48-minute piece called Mayubi with Jeff Goldblum in it. But, yeah.
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 So, I've kind of read about like slightly longer form content happening as well. So, is there any progress being made about like countering the whole nausea kind of?
Yes. Yes, there is. I mean, technology will always march forward, right, for better or worse. So one of the things that's gone on is there has been an invention. And it's these earbuds that you can put in your ears. So basically what's happening right now is these goggles are tricking your eyes. Your eyes are tricking your brain, and your eyes are telling your brain, I'm moving around when you're not moving around. And that's what's causing the nausea. So one of the ways to potentially remove this is to actually move the person around. But failing that, there has been an invention. There has been an invention, and that is earbuds, which seems a little easier. And what that does is if your eyes are being tricked that you're moving around, then why not trick your ears? And so you trick your ears into thinking you're moving around as well. So that's had some effect as well. They're not in popular usage yet, but I imagine they'll come down the pike and be more. I mean, we could talk. You have a question, so I'll get to you 1 second. Yeah. We could talk all day about barriers to entry because there has been a lot. And there's been a lot of obstacles, and that's why growth, although continuous and ever-growing, has been slower than the initial prognostications. And it's barriers to entry like nausea. Sorry, you were next, yeah.
My question was kind of similar, but VR is being used to but the experience that you have through VR isn't the same when you're actually in it. Through like just like I guess for astronauts like gravity, pressure, all this kind of stuff. How do you think they're gonna bridge it to make it more?
Well, I'll tell you, also it's very popular with surgeons right now. One of the best usage, and in the medical community in general. But as far as that goes, I think what's going on there is there's been something going on for a long time now, which are called simulations, training simulations, basically. And you've probably seen like astronauts in movies training in it's like we're in space now, even though we're not in space, and things like that. And so VR is a nice companion for that. And so I think for those kinds of professionals, VR is basically becoming a center point for what has always been a simulation and growing out from there until eventually we create the holodeck, right? So, yeah.
I can see I work for SFU, so
Yeah.
an application even in some instances for teaching as a tool for comprehension.
Absolutely. I mean, it's funny, right? Because I think some people might feel resistant to it because a phone is literally strapped to your face. But I'm telling you, the opportunities here are incredible. Yeah.
They haven't showed the glasses yet because you can make people a lot less nauseous by cooling their face.
Yeah.
I would spend all day cooling people's faces, keeping them thrown up. I don't know.
Well, that's.
Goggles are so hot.
I mean, if we could just keep the phones from overheating, we'd be
all the
happy.
time.
I don't even worry about the people. It's just like the hardware itself.
Yeah. People are standing there.
That stuff burns real fast.
Yes.
Is comedy common in VR?
Yeah, there's some comedy. I mean, there's elements of comedy in our piece here. I don't know if you've seen it yet, but
It hasn't really been established yet. Like, it's tricky.
Hello.
Because comedy's so dependent on editing.
Come on in.
It's timing, right? And so I mean, I think you could have it very much if you had
Come sit down.
the right acting performances, but it doesn't come together as clearly. And then really, like, most genres are kind of being challenged because they don't seamlessly fit, right? The one thing I think, we've seen a lot of horror, and that's just because everyone seems to love horror. We made 3 horror pieces last year.
Yeah.
I don't even like horror, but
Just keeps making it.
the audience wants it. Mystery is, I think, one of the most exciting genres as far as 360 and VR go.
Especially
just
as
because,
the tech develops.
Yeah, and to go back to what we were talking about just earlier about being able to choose what you look at, great for clues and sort of unveiling of stories. But I think we'll see comedy, but it's going to look different, right? We don't know what it's going to be like yet.
Yeah, I saw something like a few days back, which was this 40-minute comedy thing with Jeff Goldblum.
He loves VR. Yeah.
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 So you are like this robot that this kid is kind of.
This is Mayubi.
This is Mayubi. Okay, Mayubi is actually over 40 minutes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and so that's Felix and Paul, who are Canadian, and who are just killing it in immersive media right now. And Jeff Goldblum's great in that, eh?
They're like our heroes.
Yeah, basically.
When we go to sleep, we think of Felix and Paul.
And Jeff Goldblum. Jeff Goldblum, by the way, you should check out in the newest Thor movie. Just incredible.
So
I don't
good.
even like Thor movies, but it's amazing.
So good.
Anyway, sorry. Yes. There's a bunch of stuff there. We could break down Mayubi quickly. Because if you're going to go longer, and that is, I think people are thinking that, because in the end, a short film is one thing, but a long feature film-like experience is a different level. So they do a bunch of things in Mayubi. They have tactics in Mayubi to help kind of ease you through this experience. We do a little bit of it here in One Way Trip as well, even though it's not nearly as long, but it's just ways to kind of get you through transitions. So those of you who may have a little bit of knowledge of film or whatever might know what a transition is. But in VR, a transition is simply just getting from one scene to the next, because now a scene is you're living inside it. So imagine you're in one scene here where you're sitting and watching a talk about VR, and then next thing you know, you're in Granville Island and there's seagulls flying everywhere and stuff. Now, that doesn't always flow. Like, it can be very jarring and not work with you. So you have to find creative ways to do that. Not to mention passage of time. Maybe when you're in Granville Island, you want it to be the future. But how do you show that? And so in Mayubi, you are a robot and you have a battery life. And when the battery keeps dying and having problems, you keep resetting, and then you have to figure out, where am I now? What's going on now? I'm in a new environment. And it adds to the experience rather than taking away from it. And that is a lot of what we're trying to do here. And that is what is so beautiful, I think, about the stage we're at right now, is we can take these flaws, we can take these drawbacks, we can take these limitations, and we can actually turn them into strengths and finding creative ways to get around them.
Yeah, and I think like what Mayubi does a good job of, and like there aren't established rules for VR filmmaking yet, and that's really exciting. It can also be frustrating when you're like trying to work out what to do. But something I think we found time and again is that the traditional tools like editing, like color, like sound, I mean, they need more so to sort of have diegetic justification. They need to make sense internally with the narrative, right? Like sound has to, like score is tricky in VR because where's the music coming from, right? Transitions should make sense narratively. When you watch our piece, the character, the avatar is not able to do anything. We justify that. Like these are things that we need to, right? But like, I mean, you need to, because otherwise it's like you get to this thing called the autonomy wall, which is like, I'm in this story, but I can't affect it. Exactly, right? So, I mean, it's a tricky thing to do, and exploring these rules is really, really exciting. But also it can be challenging, right? And in terms of creating, it's important to realize that, you know, it's kind of tabula rasa right now, and like creation is, there are no right ways yet, no best practices as of right now. But maybe by the end of the day, we'll have some. And we'll patent that course and take it around the world. I'm joking. Very deadpan. Yeah, see? 360 comedy, here we come. Just me talking on a stage. This is live. Oh, yeah. Yeah, but we're a screening machine here. It's like we got a theater going on. Gotta do it. Don't make us peer pressure you. There's no way out of this room without watching One Way Trip. Any other questions, guys? I know James has been answering them all so well as I just like bounce around.
It strikes me that the feeling that you're not. So I don't have a video system that produces a body. So all the footage that I have is stitched together. That remains my thumb, which I didn't get out of the way.
Yeah.
But I feel voyeuristic in my own VR. I feel voyeuristic.
Yeah.
I wonder if there's with the whole not being seen. Being able to go places you're not allowed to go and sneak around places you're not allowed to see has been. Is anything like I've already got some things written down for watch. Is there anything else I would think to watch?
What's that show? It was done by ABC. It was not David Fincher. Who was it? There's some show about a ghost, family of ghosts. It's about an inheritance, and like it definitely uses that sort of, I think, like ever-present but unknown perspective. Yeah, I think I think we'll definitely, what's creepy about that is just thinking not so much in terms of entertainment, but like the VR, social media, and like communication tools that are coming down the pipe. But perspective is what makes me really think of, is like, what is your perspective and why is that it? And the first question that we always ask anytime a project comes to us is like, why does this need to be in VR, right? There's nothing more annoying than something that's supposed to be set in a 360.
It's a key question.
It's a 360 face.
Yeah.
And you come into the experience, and you're like, oh, wow, look at this room. It's cool. Oh, these people, they look so real. And it's like, on this wall.
Like, why? Why am I in 360?
And like, that's not to say that you should never be against the wall, right? It's totally cool if your scene's an alleyway and like you're standing on a wall and some like toughs are coming over to give you the tough stuff, then that's great, right?
As they do.
The film's called The Tough Stuff. But then that makes sense because, again, like that wall has narrative purpose. But when it's just that, it's like, yeah, it's an entirely different space, and there are different uses and needs for that. And like, I think any story that comes to your mind, you should wonder why it should be in VR. And if you can't answer that, then you just probably haven't found the right access point to it, right?
Yeah, so I was speaking with somebody and they mentioned this clip somebody had done where you are passive for like about 80 or 90% of the whole clip, and then at the end of it, people turn around, look at you, and suddenly become active. So
Nice.
Interesting kind of
Yeah.
implementation of that, because throughout this thing you feel as if you're suddenly you are an active element in that, stuff like that. That's
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. You get giddy with the thought of what you can do. Absolutely, me too. Oh, yes.
How much, game development, for instance, I used to also work for EA. So
Cool.
how much of an effort is it, like filming versus development in VR?
Oh, it's so different. So like, yeah, I mean, we're film traditionally, right? So like, we get queasy when things aren't MP4s, APKs, and like dev kits, and that's all kind of. It's not our functional wheelhouse. We're getting into it more and more because we kind of have to. But yeah, it's different. Like with the film process for VR, it's like actually kind of simpler than flat film. Like you have maybe, I mean, development's more as important as ever, but also tricky because people don't exactly know how to do it. Pre-production is super important. Production's relatively straightforward. Like the great thing about these cameras,
Like a theater performance.
like, we don't have to worry about angles anymore, or cuts or coverage. Like you do the shot, and that's the shot. And then post-production, while a little technically complicated, doesn't take that long. Once you get into software side of things, like there's just a bunch of stuff and a bunch of new people who are experts at things that you don't totally understand if you're me. Yeah, so I mean, we're on a project that's really, really cool right now with the CMF, where we're taking like 8K stereoscopic live action film and integrating it into like a sort of choose your own adventure software model.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Using gaze tracking. So as James alluded to earlier, like you'll make the choice without being sort of presented with the choice interface.
Eye tracking.
Yeah, it's
amazing.
It's going to be great.
Yeah.
So that's getting us, sort of crossing over. Yeah, and that is happening more and more.
Follow.
Natural light is just, that's like,
Well,
That's
you
what
can have hidden lights.
That's what we tell the cinematographers. They don't they don't get any tricks anymore.
I mean, you can. You just have to be. I mean, everything has to be hidden. So
Like diegetic, right? Like
yeah.
did you use natural light in?
Oh yeah. That was yeah. Oh yeah.
entirely.
Okay, I think we're almost ready to talk about you guys' experience with One Way Trip. We just have two more people almost. We'll just wait for them to get out.
Yeah, just to finish up on that, like again, locating it in scene, right? Like there just isn't the ability to set up the circus in the same way. So without doing sort of visual effects trickery, which can be super complicated when you're dealing with 360 degrees. So we've definitely found lamp it up. LEDs are great. Hide them, use them to amplify, but nothing beats sunlight. Thing is, and this is what I was saying because you guys might go outside when you shoot, when you're dealing with multi-lens rigs, different exposures can be, oh darn.
There's some challenges, yes.
You blow out on one side, you've got golden hour on the other side. You're like, oh, shit. So then you've got a big color job and maybe even like unsalvageable data. So
yeah, there's a lot of a learning process, and it's the kind of thing that the more you do it, the more you get a hang of those little aspects. But yeah, I think we're almost at a time now. We can here we go. We can talk
take them
a little
down
bit
the home
about
stretch. Come on,
experience.
guys.
Welcome back
You're
to
almost
reality.
back. You can do it.
And so I think we've managed to cover a lot so far. I hope you guys are feeling like you've been had some questions answered, and let's talk a little bit now about what it was like being in One Way Trip, and because we tackled it from much the same position, other than our film experience, much the same position you guys are doing right now. I cast myself because we A, didn't have any actors, and B, I was like, it's the best way for me to see what's going on, because otherwise I have to hide. And I'm like, I need to figure out the tone of this, and I have to help guide the tone. And tone is tricky because it's like comedy action, which is not the easiest tone. And so I just cast myself in it. And I got to say, I've done a little bit of acting, and actually that one's one of my favorites. I'm like, I was actually okay in that. It was all right.
read about the fact that actors find it a lot more freeing because you don't have this thing behind the camera that's like, you're not simulating a space. Like
Yeah.
in the space.
I think there's a lot of challenges for actors. Is anyone here interested in the acting side of things? Oh, fantastic. Okay, or directing actors, which I guess you all are to some capacity. So there's a lot of challenges, and again, multiple schools of thought. So I'll tell you the two schools of thought on acting. So there's one school of thought that I kind of am a proponent of, is where you ideally want to make it more realistic. that we kind of have evolved. Like we started with theater. You're on a stage. You're projecting. It's hard for you to fully see my face. I'm like, wow. Then we go to film, TV, and a little more micro expressions, a little smaller. And now in VR, you want to don't want to jar people out of reality. So if we're in VR right now, and someone's sitting next to you, and they're talking to you, and they're really animated and really over the top, it's not going to feel real, unless you might be trying to create that feeling. But if you're trying to create a realistic everyday feel, it's not going to feel real, right? So bringing everything down, making everything as natural as possible, I think is very important. However, there are some people who are making immersive media in VR and who believe that it's actually better to just go super over the top because you can blow people away and kind of like, whoa, you feel like I'm in a movie. This is nuts. Which I can see that perspective as well. Yes.
Is the director on set behind the monitor?
Well.
So yeah, I mean, what we'll do today with the Samsung cameras is you'll have a monitor that's a cell phone, right? Because you can totally direct these via a Bluetooth connection. Increasingly, cameras are coming with options to link them up to tablets. So that's kind of functioning as the monitor now because you need that interactive screen to move around and check your shot. That ultimately comes down to the type of camera you use and whether or not the camera is capable of live playback, and whether or not it's able to sort of do a render of the stitch in real time, right? Because that's with say the Google Jump where you've got 16 cameras, and they're 16 different units, you're not able to get a live feed of that. Whereas with an Ozo, which all sort of integrates it on board, you can do that. But yeah, definitely preferable, right? Otherwise, even if you can't do that, you want to do a camera test, pull it out, put it in headset. And in the end, really, you want to try to get it into headset as soon as possible because a lot is lost in looking at it on a flat screen when you don't have that.
Because then the director would have to be in this scene.
Right. That was in this 48-hour hackathon, I was like, damn it, I'm just throwing myself into it. But I mean, there are other ways you can hide or you can just rehearse a lot. Much like theater. A director of a theater performance is somewhere behind the curtain. But yeah, if you've ever done film work, it's obviously very different, right? Yeah. Yes.
So what's your take on 360 versus 180?
I mean, I think they both have their place. I mean, for me, 360 is better because, quite simply, it's reality. It's the closest thing we have to reality. So,
yeah, I think 180 offers some interesting short-term opportunities in terms of distribution. Certainly YouTube's been pushing it.
Yeah.
I think it's a shorter step from what we're used to watching on flat screens. But as soon as we make up the headset deficit, I don't really see it having too much of a purpose. But definitely, as far as flat screen viewing goes, it's useful. But it's also annoying. When you get used to 360 and you're like, oh, cool. And oh, wait, it's only...
Yeah.
Oh, I'm stuck inside. It's
We're
more
spoiled.
page than ever before.
Application where they did do a 180.
Yeah.
And it was some kind of a documentary.
Oh, like alternate shots. That's great. I love.
Oh, that's cool.
That's
One was before the calamity happened, and then one was after it happened, so you could turn around.
yeah, totally cool.
That's really smart. You've seen some cool stuff.
And you should make sure to check out. Actually, you guys should all check out because we've got the submissions to WebFest for the VR category on display outside. But one of them is similar to that, but it's actually 4 90s.
Yeah.
And it's this music video, and they tied this together, and it's cool. There's
Different
lots of fun
worlds,
things you
different
can
worlds.
do with the angles once you come. Just having a 360-degree space is a lot of fun to work with.
Yeah. Yes.
For user experience, I appreciate that you guys have the chairs for that. So you can spin around because I've been in VR experiences where I kind of was stumbling around, I
Right.
can't see anything, and walking around in circles and
Walk? Oh, you shouldn't be walking.
No.
That's not. You should always sit down.
Yeah, get in
until-
that spinning chair. They should be getting you in that spinning chair, taking care of you when you're in VR. That's another obstacle, though, is where people feel a little bit intimidated because they're just being blindfolded in a public scenario. And then, I mean, we all know these YouTube videos of people with the headsets on and then people punching them and tripping them and stuff.
seen
All
those.
know that, Sean. We've all seen it.
We've all produced those videos.
We've all gone viral
at
that
last
way.
year's WebFest.
Come on, haven't we? But no, and it's just another obstacle, barrier to entry. But yeah, we really try to take care of people. I mean, you'll find this too, as you guys become creators, which I hope you all do. Really, honestly, like it'd be fantastic. I mean, at least try, give it a try. But as you become creators, you'll find that often right now it's not just about creating the experience of being inside there, but the experience of outside of that, the experience of sitting down, the experience of priming someone for something. Like I actually feel badly. I probably should have mentioned, there's a bit of blood in this, and I hope no one was too startled by that. It's nothing too much, but it is a VR, a virtual reality, and it's just different. And Sean was mentioning horror earlier, and I will say, like, I'm a fan of horror, but I've done some of the, more hardcore VR horror experiences, and they're terrifying. They're terrifying. So something to keep in mind is we're pioneers ushering in a new tech, and there are responsibilities with that. Yes.
Yeah, I'm just wondering about when you're deciding to make content like horror or something like that. Obviously, the demographic of people who are adopting headsets and using them, like you're thinking about these using headsets and what kind of content do they want to watch in some way. Can you talk a little bit to that? Like, are there times when you're like, I'd really love to do this beautiful love story, but most of the people who have these headsets,
How many 15-year-old boys will
or
watch?
something, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, all we want to do is tell the story of a daffodil growing, and we can't find anybody who wants to finance it.
Yeah, that's our dream.
Daisy.
But no, that's a great question. I mean, there are a bunch of problems like that right now. I mean, I think we're trying to define these parameters in these marketplaces and try to figure out like the way through and who the audience is for each piece and what kind of and where that's growing to. And these are all we have numbers to go off. But
yeah, I think like people are making conservative choices with their VR content because they want to create sort of spectacles that shock. Right? Like there's this worry that if users don't walk away from a VR experience being like, oh my God, I got to tell everyone about this, that it's somehow a failure. And I think it's making it harder to justify or gain excitement for like more intimate stories. Like we've got a few pieces in development, and one of them is very much like this sort of year in the rise and the fall of a relationship, right? And it's POV, and it's just like, yeah, it's love, then not so much love, and like but it's subtle, and like that could be really powerful. And I think that's really where the medium is going to go, to where we can tell stories that are most sort of impactful because of the way we empathize and the way we like connect with other people. But for the short term, it's very much like, how do I scare someone? How do we thrill them? Like
tantalize them.
Live action stuff. So yeah, I think to roundabout way to answer your question, it's still a video game demo that is dominating the headset market, and those sorts of gamers expect certain types of content. But I also think that the platforms are run by people who are over-prioritizing them and not sort of thinking about maybe the broader demo.
At the same time, let's be fair, and we come from the film background, but the game people have done a better job than the film people so far with the world of VR. So we got some catching up to do. That being said, I think they are a bit limited, and we have many options. And eventually, someday, it'll all be the same thing. It's something else to keep in mind in our lifetimes. So, yeah. Yes.
So yeah, just go with it. Bring your audience over time as well.
Yeah. Exactly.
I think video games also went through the whole process of figuring out whether video games are art, like about a decade back, and they started doing these stories, like you mentioned, daffodils or whatever. There's a game called Flower, right? Where
Right.
you follow a flower.
What? They stole our idea.
Stole our idea.
Journey is, and these are
Journey is great.
Oh, yeah.
simple stories. Yeah, so that kind of stuff is happening, and hopefully it happens to VR.
Completely. And I mean, even like in stuff that's more like, we were taking a game for a spin the other night, and like at some point video games just started kind of copying movies, right? You just get these amazing cinematic cutscenes where you're not doing anything. You're just like, oh, this is a film, and it's super cool. So we need to do the same thing from the film side and sort of adopt some of the interactivity.
By the way, you haven't lived until you've been a hockey goalie in VR.
That's not the game I was
I know you were. Yeah. It's like they're actually hits you in the face and he goes all red and oh my god.
Great.
Anyway, It's a VR.
It's called VR hockey goalie.
Goalie channel. Yeah. The names. It's like early Nintendo, right? The names are like tennis. Yes. No.
Do so.
I also come from a film background, and I work in research now in New York data and but now when I'm going back, like I'm starting to get this sense like I should have gone into like computer programming from the start. So this kind of thing where you say like we have some teaching up to you, you're obviously like, are you both looking into things like community development and like what? And do you have any tips for like? I don't really want to get right into that, but is there any tips of like here's how to skill up in a way where you can talk to developers as a developer?
Just be able to speak the language. Yeah. Well, I mean, there's people out there to talk to. I mean,
Yeah. Say less than you normally would.
I mean, when it comes down to it, I mean, I think it's a good question, and I think it's kind of a greater question as well. I think it's important not to feel discouraged if there's something that you feel that is in something you wanted. That, I'm not quite. I don't have that area. I don't have that. There is a way through. There is a way forward. VR is only getting bigger and bigger, and there are many different capacities for it. That being said, doing your best to speak the lingo, that kind of stuff. Like, let's move in that direction. But also don't feel discouraged. Don't feel discouraged about a lack of knowledge in that regard.
I would say reach out to people. I mean, one of the great things about the virtual reality sort of quasi-industry right now is that it's very collaborative. It's very open. People are excited, and lots of folks are thinking about the good of the broader ecosystem and not sort of siloed off. And so, people are excited and happy to talk about things. And I would say the Emerging Media Lab out at UBC is a great place. The Vancouver VR community is a great monthly meetup. And Digital Dojo is a cool program run out of our studio down in Railtown that is a little bit more, it's more than beginners, but like there are people there who can just offer, right? And like starting some conversations, just finding sort of what you're even trying to talk about. Because I know it's what we've gone through as well. It's like you confront this stuff and it's all, when people say scripts and you're like, yeah, like a screenplay. And they're like, no, like a command for a computer. And you're like, I don't know what you're talking about. There's a few red-faced moments in the last year.
Oh, yeah. I should do a quick throw out to that space in Railtown that we are at. It's the Cube. It's the VR accelerator, and it's an incredible place for VR. It's in a beautiful office in Railtown, overlooking the harbor. And we do have events there sometimes. We've thrown some events there sometimes. And the best way to describe it is we're not only creating VR, we are VR evangelists. So,
proselytizing
across the land, whether we're in the Yukon or Seattle or here or wherever. Sorry. Yeah, you had a question? Okay. I hate when that happens. Someone has a question.
Isn't it nice to speak on like an actual microphone?
It's nice.
I'm so tired of headsets.
I know.
So nice.
Yeah.
So it's analog solution.
Yeah.
Very cool.
All right. So
let's make some VR.
Let's make some. Yeah. Exactly. Let's get doing this.
What are we gonna do? Get some cameras and then like some brainstorming.
Yeah. What we're kind of thinking, and I want to be as free as possible, but ideally we kind of break you guys up into teams. And then in teams, you kind of discuss different ideas and what you want to do, and whether you create one little project together or what have you.
Compete to the death.
Compete to the death, maybe.
Yeah. That one always works.
It's important that you guys, in the end, it's going to be creating something, working together, talking together. But I want, as much as possible, your ideas to get through. So, feel free to talk to us, and we'll help facilitate that. And, we just want to help you make VR now. It's happening. It's happening now. So I think we're losing the room, and
it's 11 o'clock, 11:45. It's 11:30 now, so we can go outside. Can we bring our microphones with us?
Can we just walk around with them for the rest?
We
of the
could
day?
take them though, and then the next group could come in, and we could keep talking to them.
Nothing they could do.
We
do the presentation for them. As it were.
Let's do it. Never give up.
All right. So thank you so much, and let's continue on.